Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review of Fear the Walking Dead's episode 210, season 2, episode 10. But so this one was really entertaining, I thought, and I really personally liked it. But there were also a lot of really dumb mistakes or dumb scenes, but I'll get into that. Like, there were a lot of flaws, but I still overall really liked this week's episode. Personally, I know there are going to be a lot of people that really disliked it and hated it, because that seems to be the way things are going with this show, but I honestly did like it, and I'll break it down part by part and explain why, and the things I like and the things I didn't like or that I thought were stupid. But starting off, we have this scene, a flashback of that wedding that was going on at the hotel, and we see this hotel manager chick, Elena, and she ends up locking away a wedding party after one of the dudes who were all infected at this point, I'm assuming. So one of the dudes dies, turns into a walker, and bites the chick's face, and she just locks them all in the room, which is kind of a dick move. It's a shitty thing to do in the situation, even like given the situation. Like, you could have evacuated everyone who hadn't been bit, but I don't know. They didn't know a lot about it at that point. You can do whatever. The scene wasn't bad. My only complaint is that it maybe dragged on a little bit too long. But even then, it really wasn't a horrible scene or anything. Also, we get to see Travis and Chris again. And honestly, out of the three groups, they were probably the three groups that our main cast is split apart into. They were probably the one I was immediately least interested to see, but their episode focusing on them turned out to be the best, and their story turned out to be my favorite, because the development between Chris and Travis was so good. But when we first see them, they find this car after they've been walking for a while, and so Travis pulls a stupid with the car. He busts the window out, and then he just grabs the handle and opens the door. So, like, that is a bit of one of those dumb things that takes you out of the moment. But either way, still very entertaining and a little bit hard to catch even. But Chris goes off to explore this, a taqueria, and he finds a can of beans, takes the can of beans, but not before saving some dude's life by taking out a walker and then booking it out of there with his beans. So they drive off. Travis lets Chris drive, like for his first time driving or whatever. We see Alicia in a really cool looking scene where she's like counting the walkers that pass and everything by the door. But then this really good scene was mired by this one, for some reason, looking in the people just for the cheap jump scare. Like, it was really cheesy in a kind of bad way. So, I mean, again, all of these good things that they can't just leave good. There's just that one thing in there that sets them off into being kind of crappy. So Travis and Chris end up making camp for the night, and we have a really cool conversation between them. And Travis kind of like, he has a decent short-term plan, but he really doesn't have very steady long-term plans, because the two of them just living, what are they just going to sit alone in a mountain somewhere until they both die of old age or something? Like, yeah, I don't know. His plans just do not seem all that that sound to me. But while they're at their camp, these guys that Chris had taken the beans from show back up, and we find out that their names are Brandon, Derek, and Baby James. And these guys decide to, hey, we'll eat together, we'll camp together. They sort of work things out between the two of their groups. And going back to Alicia, we have a scene with her that honestly was the worst scene of the episode. Again, still entertaining, but the way she just walked out there, got cornered, started yelling, started running, it just, it made her go from badass and seeming like she had a purpose and knew what she was doing to it just seeming like she had no clue what was going on. So then we get the elevator scene, and I knew from the sneak peeks, I was like, okay, this is going to be bad, because we saw these walkers come up to the elevator, and then they stop and start reaching for her, which demolishes some continuity. It demolishes some some consistency with the show, because just last episode they were just walking forward at a noise until they stumbled over a balcony. So they can't stop themselves from stumbling over a balcony, and yet they know, hey, let me stop at this ledge here, this sheer ledge, and reach for you instead of just falling straight down. Now, they do fall down, so it is sort of mitigated. It's not like the worst thing ever, but still, it's one of those things, like I said, that's kind of bad and cheesy and takes you out of it. But Alicia ends up getting saved by the hotel manager, Elena chick, and then we cut back to Travis and Chris's group, and Travis tells those dudes, because they say they're from San Diego, he's like, yo, we saw San Diego burning. But then they all decide to travel together just to the next city or whatever, cutting back again to Elena and Alicia, and they talk back and forth a bit and decide that they're going to move the dead so that they can get downstairs, so you have to move them out of the stairway. But for me, again, this kind of hurts a little bit of continuity from last episode, because if they're in the stairwell and there's no way up or down from that floor, how did Ophelia and Alicia get up there last episode? Like, it's one of those things where, again, it seems like there's a bit of a plot hole there. Also, another thing, when Alicia's talking to her and she's like, my mom and Strand, they were surrounded. How'd she, like, I get she could assume that the ones falling were going to be walking towards that direction, maybe, of where the bar was, but how'd she know they were surrounded? I mean, I guess she could just assume, and that makes sense. But something else she says that doesn't make sense is when the chick's like, yo, I locked all those people in there to die with the one infected dude. And Alicia's like, oh, we've seen and done worse. And it's like, have you? Have you really? Like, that could work if it was said by, I don't want to compare the show to the original Walking Dead, but a difference there is with them, we saw like Glenn and Andrea and everybody had already been killing walkers for like a month when Rick showed up. So before we even saw them, they already had some experience with this world, and we could buy stuff like that. We can't buy stuff like that from this group because we've seen them from the beginning, so we know what they have and haven't done, and no, they have not done anything nearly that bad, nor have they really seen much really that bad either. I mean, they've done some kind of bad things, but nothing nearly on that level. And it's like the show can't get away with a line like that because we've actually seen what they have and haven't done. So yeah, that didn't really work very well either. Flipping back to Chris and Travis's group, they find this farm, they go, and Chris and the one group find a bunch of chickens in a barn and go in there, and they should know barns are never a good sign in The Walking Dead. But Travis is like, yo, we could stay here. We could just stay here, let this group leave, me and Chris could live it up alone and for some reason in the middle of Mexico. But then he notices a bunch of graves, and he's like, and that's when, as a person watching, you're like, oh, well, if there were graves, there had to be a person who dug them and buried the bodies there. So he runs off to go tell Chris and that group, he's like, yo, there's somebody living here, we gotta get out of here. He goes to tell them that. Also, flipping back, once again, we just go back and forth and back and forth. We have Elena and Alicia downstairs now. They run into the group of people who somehow escaped that room they were locked in, which isn't that unreasonable. They could just bust down a door or something. There are a couple of them left, I guess, and they have Hector, the nephew of Elena, and Elena and Alicia trade Elena's keys for Hector, and then another really stupid scene. Like, for something that I enjoyed so much, this had a lot of really stupid scenes. And the Travis and Chris stuff was really solid and really good. The Alicia stuff had a ton of stupid scenes. Like, I think every scene I've talked about so far for Alicia has been a stupid scene. Like, all 4 scenes with her have had something that was really, really broken in them. And what was really, really broken about this scene? They opened the door to let the walkers out of the bar to go, like, after those people. But the thing is, they just open a completely clear, like, completely see-through, transparent door, and the walkers don't wrap around the door and come towards them. They just keep walking forward and walk straight ahead. And I was thinking, oh, maybe there's a wall there protecting them or something. Nope, there wasn't. The walkers just went forward towards that group, and none of them turned to go after the people on the other side of this transparent glass that were right there within reach. Like, not even behind the glass. They could have just turned and looked and said, oh, there's people right here. And for some reason they didn't, and it was just really stupid because, again, from what we've seen of walkers, it's not consistent. This is not how they typically behave. So, yeah, some stupid stuff going on. And then finally wrapping up the episode, actually, is this wrapping up? I think this may be, I think next we actually stay with them for some, or no, we jump back to Chris and Travis's group with the guy, coming out with a shotgun, the guy who owns the place, and he confronts them in the barn. Travis shows up. They're trying to defuse the situation. Flip back to Elena and Alicia's group. They run through this underground area of the hotel and come out at this door where they were banging on the door and yelling and stuff. Madison opens the door and saves them from the walkers coming up behind them. But again, if there was a bunch of banging and stuff on a door, why'd Madison open it? Wouldn't her initial thoughts be it's a bunch of walkers behind the door? But again, not going to complain because Alicia may have yelled something there and Madison could have recognized her voice. So, not going to hold that against this episode at all. And then finishing it off, we have a great, great scene, in my opinion. One of the best scenes in all of Fear the Walking Dead, in my opinion, where Chris shoots the homeowner dude, and just the look on Travis's face, and then later on when Chris holds out his hand and Travis doesn't take it and just looks away, was so good. Just showing that no, all that he's done, no matter what he's done, he could not fix Chris. Chris has gone down this road, and it was just brutal and savage and real and raw. It was a really good scene. And I loved all of the Chris and Travis stuff this episode. And I loved all the Chris and Travis stuff, and I really enjoyed all the Alicia stuff. Even though I can freely admit, like I said about every single scene with the Alicia stuff was stupid or had a major flaw or mistake, but I still enjoyed it. And I still thought it was fun to watch, and I think that's really important in a show. I mean, you can't judge everything by just strict storytelling. Sometimes, the fan has to be able to enjoy what's going on. And I think the bad this episode was definitely 100% redeemed by the good stuff with Travis and Chris. So, loved the development between the two of them. And, yeah, I guess that would be it for this one, right? Am I forgetting anything? Nope, not forgetting a thing. So anyway, I think I'm giving this one. The score might be lowballing it a tiny bit for how much I enjoyed it, but the story quality, at least on the Alicia side of things, was pretty crappy. So 7.5, 7.5 chicken neck snaps out of 10. I don't know, that was a really bad one. That was really uncreative. I feel like I'm getting even worse at these things as the time goes on. But, yeah, either way, if you did like this video, comment down there, tell me what you thought of this episode and what you thought of my thoughts on it. Subscribe for more Fear the Walking Dead, both comic and TV show, and a friggin' ton more. So, that's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.